Hi, today we're going to talk about, mainly we're going to be talking about synthetic division. We're going to be looking at these polynomials that we have, and we're going to be looking at how do we divide them. Our divisor is going to be a binomial. We will look at the remainder theorem, what that means, and we'll investigate a way to find what potential zeros of a polynomial function is. Okay, here we go. So let's say I have this polynomial right here. So it's written as a series of factors. So the first factor you see up there for our function of x is 3x minus 2. It's being multiplied by the quantity of x minus 4. And then the next factor in line there is x plus 3. So you have three different factors. So if I want to know what is the f of 4, what is the function of 4, I will just put that 4 in everywhere I see an x. But you can see right here, if you look at that second factor, when I put the 4 in there, 4 minus 4 is 0, meaning one of my factors is going to be going to 0. So what would happen there? I would have 3 times 4 minus 2 times 4 minus 4 times 4 plus 3 is going to equal 10 times 0 times 7. Well, you know that when you multiply anything times 0, no matter how big or small it is, the number that you end up with is 0. So 4 is one of the zeros of this polynomial. The same thing is going to happen if I were to put in 2/3. Let's look at that first factor right there, this guy here. If you put 2/3 in there, that first factor is going to go to 0. So 2/3 is 0. What is the function of 5? Well, let's give that a try. So we have 3 times 5 minus 2 is one of our factors. Then 5 minus 4. Then 5 plus 3. So you get 15 minus 2 is 13. That becomes 13. 5 minus 4 is 1. And then 5 plus 3 is 8. When I do that multiplication, what I'm going to get is 104. So the function of 5 is 104. So I know that 4 is a 0 of this function. I know that 2/3 is a 0 of this function. But I don't know what the third 0 of this function is. I know that it has 3 zeros. Why? I know that it has 3 zeros because it has 3 factors. So the only factor that we haven't seen go to 0 is this factor, this x plus 3. So if I set that factor equal to 0, x plus 3 is equal to 0, and solve for x, I just get x is equal to -3. So those are the zeros of this function. Whenever x is equal to 4, whenever x is equal to -3, and whenever x is equal to 2/3. This function takes the value of 0. So here is the function written again in factored form. If I were to multiply this function out, this is what I would get. After I multiply all this out and I simplify by combining like terms, I would end up with 3x cubed minus 5x squared minus 34x plus 24. So what I want to talk about for just a second before we talk about how to divide these things is, what does factor mean? Look, you've taken this function and you've broken it into factors. If you were to FOIL all that out, this is what you would end up with. This is the exact same thing as this. It's just written as a series of factors. So sometimes when we think about like normal numbers, it's a little easier to think about what these things mean. So let's just think of the number 24. If I write it in like one of its factored forms, it could be 12 times 2, okay? So 24 is the same exact thing as 12 times 2. 12 times 2 is 24 in a factored form. 24 divided by 12 is equal to 2. 24 divided by 2 is equal to 12. But what if something is not an exact factor? What if we had something like 8 divided by 3? 8 divided by 3. Well, I know that 3 goes into 8 twice. I multiply then. If I'm doing log division, then I subtract. I get this 2, and that's my remainder. So what I am saying is, if I have 8 things, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If I say that divided by 3, what that means is how many groups of 3 can I pull out of that 8? Well, here's a group of 3, and here's another group of 3. And then I have some more left as well, and that is representing the remainder. So there is your remainder. So the remainder, if 3 is the whole, if your divisor is the whole, I'm saying how many whole groups of 3 can I get out? If I'm talking about 3 divided by 8, well, 2, and I can get 2 thirds of another group, since 3 is the whole thing. So I want you to keep that in mind as we look at dividing these polynomials and talk about how we write the answer when we have a remainder left over. So let's say I have this. Let's say I have 3x cubed minus 5x squared minus 34x plus 24, and I am dividing that by x plus 3.